In this video, you are going to learn 15 best practices for speech analytics. Do you think that speech analytics is still a very complicated topic? If so, this is the perfect video for you. You've selected the best speech analytics practices and made them into 4 simple steps so that you can be as aware as possible of this feature that's already making a huge difference in several call center operations. Those steps are: first one, purchase study; second, implementation; third, utilization; and fourth, analysis. Let's start with purchase study. Every big call center wants to have an automated analysis system. But what should these operations take into account when looking for a provider for this? The first one is that it's not mandatory to analyze 100% of the contacts. Many companies dream of analyzing all the contacts that they receive or make, but since speech analytics is usually charged based on the number of calls analyzed, the cost of a full analysis can be too expensive. This shouldn't stop you from implementing a speech analytics software. In the vast majority of cases, when it comes to a high volume of calls, only about 1% of all contacts are manually evaluated by monitors. Therefore, even if you were to analyze only 10% of all your calls, that would still be a tenfold increase in the number of calls that get to be audited. The second tip is to have at least one person dedicated to speech analytics. As great as speech analytics is, it's not a plug-and-play solution for every problem. In order to make the best use of speech analytics, it's important to have someone dedicated to look into the data. And don't get me wrong, you can get a lot of data from the get-go, but if you want to make the best use possible of speech analytics tool, it's ideal to have at least one person constantly looking into it and turning data into insights. This is essential to maximize results. Tip number 3 is to set clear goals. Speech analytics is a tool capable of generating a lot of different information. SIF analytics, for example, can detect the following points: signs of complaint, profanity terms, suspicion of fraud, contact reasons, most spoken words, speech speed, dissatisfaction, and much more. That's a lot of information and can look pretty intimidating. So it's pretty important to start by focusing on 3 of these metrics and studying them as much as possible. By doing so, you can start to understand the software better and then move to more complex goals. Now let's talk about implementation. Having done the studies for contracting, let's move to the main implementation issues. Our tip number 4 is to do transcriptive tests. Transcription is the process of converting audio to text, and this is a critical step in implementation of speech analytics software. A poor quality transcription will have very serious repercussions on the final result of your speech analytics. Therefore, it's very important to test the quality of the transcripts before any step in the implementation process. Tip number 5 is to improve call recording quality. As you may have already noticed, it's important that you set the table before getting to a speech analytics tools. And as I said before, the quality of the transcription is primordial. Therefore, it's important to strive for the best call recording as possible. This will have a direct impact on the quality of your transcripts. Tip number 6 is to train your team for data analysis. We live in a world of information, and speech analytics is a tool designed to provide you with information and data automatically. That's why your team should know how to analyze data and translate it to the rest of your company. This might look like a complex step, but the results it can bring are tremendous. Alright, now finally let's talk about utilization. If the best way to use speech analytics still seems a bit unclear, that's fine. This next section is for you. Our tip number 7 is the areas you can use the speech analytics. The first one is business intelligence. Information on complaint signals, scripts that get the most sales, and arguments that solve issues on first contact can be a key point in rethinking all internal scripts and improving business results. Another department is the HR or training. In addition to automatically identify the agents who fail the most, the training area can delve into, for example, the questions that generate the most silence blocks, which is the wait time after the agent asks the client for some time to look for info. Thus focusing the training on these more challenged topics. That's another example. In the operation department, the speech analytics can be very helpful. This tool can easily help operation managers to better achieve their objectives, identifying which agents are not following the process or which process have better results. And finally, the quality department can be benefit from the identification of dissatisfaction. It's important to point out that the same tool can be shared with all the areas mentioned in this video, adaptable to the budget of each department. Tip number 8 is to monitor tool performance. After defining the areas that will benefit from the results, a fundamental step is monitoring the performance of your speech analytics. But how do you do this? You need to measure the following points. The first one is the number of calls with analysis errors. Second is the number of calls without analysis. And the last one is false positives and false negatives. Tip number 9 is to adjust it when necessary. Errors exist. They will happen at one time or another, but the team must be aware when they occur, be detected, and corrected. Now, let's talk about analysis. The analysis will present the results and the return on investment of the speech analytics. So, the tip number 10 is to understand silence blocks. As I've explained, blocks are those moments when the agent asks the customer for a moment to log into the system, look up information, or talk to their supervisor. The problem is that these pauses have a direct impact on the average handle time, bringing with it a significant increase in the call key and finally causing customer irritation. With Stiff Analytics, you will be able to understand the main cause of silence blocks. What are the main processes that lead the agent to request a timeout and review the system? You can get all this information automatically. Tip number 11 is to discover the sentiment of your customer. Uncover his sentiment is the best way to find out what customers think of your business. And you probably already have a few ways of finding that out. But with sentiment in speech analysis, you can find out what customers think of your products and services, and even figure out which operations, teams, and or agents bring better or worse emotions to customers. Tip number 12 is to search over the competition. One of the best practices in business is to know your competition. Set company, product, and service names linked to your competitors to discover market trends, promotions, and actions that affect your customers, and even opportunities for improvement in your products and services based on what your customers say about your competitors. Tip number 13 is to identify suspected fraud. Nowadays, several companies have their own payment methods for their customers, loyalty clubs, and even credit cards that provide benefits. Therefore, it's important to be very vigilant for fraud committed by the agents. Tip number 14 is to study calls in which no classifications have been identified. It may happen that certain calls are not classified by our speech analytics, and this can happen in several ways, such as the agent or the customer did not speak or listen to each other, disconnection of the call, and finally unknown subjects by speech analytics. It's normal to this happen, but the important thing is to have a classification goal for your calls and understand the reasons why some may remain unclassified. And the last tip is to act with customers. There are several actions that speech analytics can help you with, and here are some examples. Identify what customers are saying about the competition and take active action to try to win back the customer. Another one is to find the cause of negative customer feelings and take corrective actions. And finally, find cases of fraud and give benefits to compensate the customer for the inconvenience. Well, the use of speech analytics will largely depend on the ability and creativity of the people who will manage and analyze the data. Always try to use speech analytics in scenarios that make or lose money for your business to initially gauge return on investment. And if you didn't know, we here at SIF have our own speech analytics system called SIF Analytics, in which you have learned with it to make this guide. So if you want to know more about it, just access cyf.com, and thanks for watching this video and don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye!